Welcome back, scumbags. This is another vote of no confidence, but today we're going to do something a little bit different on the show. I'm just going to put it bluntly. Let's talk about Snoke, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Supreme Leader Snoke, there are so many ideas floating around in the interwebs about who, what, where, when, why, he, she, it is. We don't know anything. We know very little, so I'm just going to bring up something that we talked about on here on the Rebel Scum channel a little bit earlier, and we're going to see what you think. Maybe you hate it, maybe you love it. That's the fun about Star Wars, right? So our topic regarding Snoke is Snoke a remnant of the old Republic? At the end of Aftermath 3, Empire's End, Grand Admiral Sloane, who is now in charge of what's left of the Imperial, she takes everybody left over who was loyal to Palpatine. They travel into wild space, which Palpatine has mapped out. By the way, there are minor spoilers for, I should have probably mentioned that before, minor spoilers for Aftermath, Empire's End. If you haven't read that yet and you want to, check that out and then come back and finish the rest of this. So Sloane and her people travel to the edge of wild space, and they meet up with the Star Destroyer Eclipse, which Palpatine has set up as sort of the Voyager probe, if you will, to go out into the wilderness and of space and find out what's out there beyond the galaxy. Now, the Eclipse hails Sloane's ship when she gets close enough. Sloane is there with Hux, who is still a little kid at this point, and his father, and the children who they are eventually going to train to be stormtroopers. So we are seeing the birth of what will eventually become the First Order. However, Snoke is not among them, at least as far as we know. So eventually, they're going to come across Snoke because they are going to become the First Order. So Snoke is possibly on the Eclipse already, or he may be somebody that they meet out in the far reaches beyond the galaxy. Now, here's the thing about Snoke. We only know 3 things about him for sure. 1, he's Supreme Leader of the First Order. 2, he's been around long enough to see the Emperor's rise and fall. And 3, he's horribly scarred. That's it. That's the extent of what we know about Snoke. That's not much to go on. Everything else is a big question mark. But Aftermath Empire's End gives us one small thing to consider. If Snoke is not on board the Eclipse, then that means he was encountered later, which raises 2 questions. Number 1, if he came in late in the game, what did he do to become leader of their group? And number 2, if he came in late in the game, then that probably means he was from another galaxy entirely. And what does that mean for Star Wars in general? Are we going to see 2 galaxies at war? Not just an empire and a rebellion, but 2 whole separate galaxies vying for supremacy in the overall universe? Is that what's going to happen? Is Snoke an emissary from an ancient race that has lived out there beyond the blackness of wild space, who now wants to come and take over and pose a legitimate threat to the entire galaxy as we know it? Or was he somebody from the old Republic of the familiar galaxy who has lingered and lived on for thousands of years, watched everything transpire, and decide to take matters into his own hands and reshape the Empire into the First Order? Who knows? The only, I want to say proof, but I can't, but the only information that sort of gives credence to the fact that he might be from the Old Republic is that Snoke's ways are very different from the Empire's ways. They are very old school ways. Snoke is all about the ancient stuff as far as the First Order is concerned. Because if you look at the way the First Order works, it's not a military like the Empire. It looks like a military, but it's actually more of a cult than anything else. Kylo Ren's lightsaber is old and jagged, and it's an outdated thing. Snoke's very presence indicates this ancient form. He doesn't look like a young person, and I'm not just because he's all scarred up. And the journey that's taken in the Aftermath books is one that's based off of records reaching into wild space that are very, very old. That Palpatine used ancient computers, similar to the ones you would see in Knights of the Old Republic, the video game, to map out the stars beyond the horizon of space. So there's a lot that points to the Old Republic, but nothing that really cements Snoke and the Old Republic together. If Snoke is from those days, though, this is where it gets great, because everybody's been clamoring since new canon became a thing, since legends became legends. Everybody wants to see the Old Republic, whether it's in a movie or in a Netflix show or in another video game. We want that Old Republic. Personally, I want a trilogy of movies. I want that to happen. It's just been a fan favorite, but there's been no word on it yet. If Snoke is a remnant of the Old Republic, there you go. There's your gateway. There's a way to open that up and just have Old Republic stuff come pouring in. You get the revelation of Snoke, maybe in 8, maybe in 9. And then once that happens, once we know the Old Republic is a real thing that this guy comes from, and he brings his knowledge of it to the table, and we learn about it through him, through what he does and what he says, then we can take those little chunks of knowledge, go back, and look at the Old Republic with that in mind. It's just like when Obi-Wan told Luke at the end of at the beginning of episode 4, he mentions, his father, blah blah blah. We fought in the Clone Wars. I was a Jedi Knight with your father. That's all he says. We fought in the Clone Wars. I was a Jedi Knight. And then we got a trilogy of movies about the Clone Wars and how Jedi Knights were in their prime during that period of time. So all it would take would be Snoke to say something in episode 8 or episode 9 about, I was a figurehead of power in the Old Republic. Back in the days, I fought in the war for the Argoth Pyramid. I don't know. I just pulled that out of my ass. I don't know what an Argoth Pyramid is. But all he has to do is say something like that. And then Disney can just sit back for a while and say, did you like that? Well, guess what? Here's a trilogy of Old Republic movies about the Battle of the Argoth Pyramid, and we're going to see what that was. And then, boom, everybody's on board. We have a legitimate reason to see the Old Republic again. What do you think? Is this a thing that can happen? Anything can happen. I mean, there are lightsabers, so we can't say no. Is this a thing that can happen? Let us know, scumbags. Chime in. Is Snoke old school, and is he bringing old school back into the forefront of things? See you next time.
Hey scumbags, thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on our video. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rebel Scum Podcast, for all the latest videos.